appeal to people that would sign up for it. Not that I don't think that they would, find it unappealing. It's just that it's the town's money at risk if there's not a sufficient subscriber.
Not entirely true.
Well, you're 500,000.
There's our $500,000, but we're also on the hook for the loan. And the foreclosure goes back to the town, so we have a substantial risk, in essence, for the entire network.
So, Chris, if you have was it a 3-month pre-subscription period?
Yes.
And if you don't reach the 50% in that period of time, what happens?
If we don't, the $500 installation fee is held by the town.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't reach the minimum number required, that money is returned to the subscribers.
And the build-out doesn't happen?
The build-out doesn't happen, but the make-ready work has been done,
Mm-hmm.
so anybody who follows behind us has a clear path to put fiber on the poles. Because that clear path belongs to the town, it doesn't belong to us.
Okay.
For a limited time. There's a sunset period on.
Yeah, there is.
applications.
There's a nominal 6-month period.
That means you guys would have to move quickly, because if the MBI then made application, they then get in ahead of you,
Yeah.
and you lose your slot.
We know how it works. We've built many towns.
I'd like to make a comment. I think this gentleman, I'm sorry I don't know your name, sir, is absolutely right. But the data is more important to the companies than it is to the town, because that data, how much money is coming out of Egremont right now collectively for broadband, is what these guys need to know if they have a viable service or not. So, that breakdown is very valuable. Whether the town should do it or these companies should do it is a question. I don't really
Well, I
care,
think if
but
we're signing a contract with these companies,
But
and there's a lot of assumptions made,
But
I
these guys
think you
are at
need to
risk.
decrease the amount of assumptions.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Okay.
But these guys are at risk. If they don't
So
know
are
how
we.
much money's coming out of Egremont and they're putting their money on the line and, $50 is coming out of Egremont instead of 5,000, they're in trouble.
We're going to, well, thanks for the suggestion, and I appreciate the suggestions. We're going to move forward to next week's meeting, which we'll have next Thursday. At 4 o'clock. We'll talk about the second part of the financials, which is the cost of the town, cost of the organization, and address those. And what I'd like to do is move on now, just briefly talk about what you had mentioned is, well, actually, I think you mentioned it, Eric, is the fourth option.
We had slightly different ideas about what a fourth option might
Yeah.
be, but yeah, Jeff has articulated his in writing, so.
Okay, so the option, in addition to the 3 outfits that we've been speaking with, is to follow in the footsteps of Alford and Otis and just go on our own. And that I personally believe that this does warrant further consideration and exploration. How this would work, how the town of Otis, for example, is doing this, is the town would contract with a construction company, possibly one of these that are here in the room, to build the network, and then would contract with an operator, again, possibly one of these, to operate the network. And operation, like I mentioned before, would be operating and maintaining the network itself, doing all the maintenance and repair, the customer service work, the billing work, all of the operational aspects of providing internet service. I think we should explore this to see what would be involved. I believe, this is still to be confirmed, I believe we would still be eligible for the state funding, the state grants going in this direction. Certainly Otis has found that to be true. And so the difference between doing our own thing would be, number one, we would own the network outright from day one, because we would be contracting to have it built for the town. The town of Egremont, as you may know, has a so-called municipal light plan, an MLP, which is something that was voted at a select board or town meeting.
Town meeting,
a town meeting
5 years ago.
5 years ago, which under state law is what is required of a municipality to own and operate a telecommunications or electric service. So we have that in place already to be able to do it. A second difference is that we would have a little bit more direct control over the construction and operation. The downside is that the town, through its MLP, would be a little bit more hands-on with just managing these contracts, because now it's not a turnkey operation where we're just signing on the bottom line and one of these guys goes out and takes care of all of it. We kind of have to be more involved. So I believe that's an option. I'm not advocating for or against this approach. I just think we need to also consider this. And it's probably a fairly straightforward option to figure out.
My question was to the funding part. If you guys build on your own without the MBI assisting in the construction phase of it, this goes for any of the towns, do you get allocation from both pots from the MBI?
Well,
Right now, we get allocation from one pot, and I've got some questions in regarding that. And I also have a question in regarding the other pot of money. What can we get out of that? Because that's one thing Eric Nakajima was really not clear about. We'd asked a question.
Maybe Chris has some, my
Well, Chris
understanding.
actually sent me a series of questions that I'm waiting for answers on now.
Because my understanding was that if you guys go on your own, if you don't use the MBI for any of the construction, pre-construction phases, that 18 million is off limits.
well, going on our own does not imply not using MBI. One avenue would be to contract with MBI for the build-out.
I think,
That's different, but you referenced using, say, one of us.
I think what we're looking at is that there's two ways you can use MBI. You can go for the money, get the money from them to subsidize you, like Alfred's doing, and like Mount Washington's doing, and I think like Otis is doing. Or the other thing is you can wait, like a lot of towns are still, a lot of towns are becoming more and more up in the air on that, wait for MBI to contract the build-out. Then you're looking at broadband in 2020. You don't know what the costs are going to be, because you're still going to have to contract with somebody to manage that, to be your ISP, and to manage the network for you. Which is why we're looking at now just two different models, and if MBI comes back in, we'll be looking at 3 different models. The other thing too that we need to look at is if there are other companies out there, we asked for proposals and we got 3 proposals. If there are other companies out there, they need to play get to us and get caught up real quick.
I don't want people to think that we're dragging this out, because we're all so eager to get this going. But and we do have literally calls into MBI to get clarification on these things. I personally have a list of questions to discuss with MBI, and as soon as we can connect with each other, we'll make progress on this. We are not trying to analyze this thing to death. We just want to be sure we're doing the right thing for the town and for the subscribers.
Yeah, and the thing you need to all understand is that a lot of time is being put in by 6 people, and it's all free of charge. These people are volunteering their time and really putting in yeoman's work to get their questions answered, and to they all have the same questions all of you have here in the audience. And there's some things we can do, there's some things we can't do.
Yeah.
And ultimately, there's going to be proposals made to the Board of Selectmen, And I suspect the Board of Selectmen are going to then go to the Finance Committee. We've got some really good people on that Finance Committee. We're also gonna look at that proposal. And ultimately, a choice is gonna be made. And then, once that choice is made, then the negotiations really begin regarding what they're gonna do, what they're not gonna do, what it's gonna cost, what are the real specifics of how this is gonna go. And we may get to the end of that whole negotiations phase and say, this may not work, and say, let's go back to the drawing board. Let's hope that doesn't happen. But,
God, yes.
yeah,
It's,
but there's, we're not dragging our feet. We want broadband to start being installed. We'd like to see it this spring.
one of the things that I've discovered, and when was this committee composed? About 4 months ago?
4 months ago.
Something like that. And it's been a learning curve for all of us. And one of the things I found out very early is that my 40 years of private sector experience was largely irrelevant to some of the largest problems involved in doing this. The largest problems are legal, and they involve state government laws, bonding laws. And they are specific to Massachusetts. We'd be done if we didn't have to pass through all those hoops. You know, we could have said, we like this one. Jonathan would have said, I like that one. It would have gone to the select board. They would have made a decision. But there are complexities here that I mean, I don't know how many of you in this room have extensive experience with the state government, this state government. If you do, I wish you had been present earlier, because we could have used that advice. But we've used a lot of legal advice locally and in Boston to try to get us up to speed on what we can do with the funds that we raise. We have not as much freedom as one might have thought, as I certainly hoped.
Yep.
So anyway, it's not an excuse. Broadband is of urgent importance to me, and as Marge pointed out, I'm not good at minding the pennies. That's not my strength. I want something done, and so I'm impatient, as many of you are. Or maybe you're not, I don't know. But I take your showing up as a vote of concern, an expression of concern.
And we'd like you all to come again, like next week. If you've got something to add, if you can add something, if you can give us something definitive that you feel that will help us, we'll look at it.
Could I say, I would like to get the data?
Please, go for it.
Okay, with your, I can say, the
Go for it.
technology committee would like me to get the data?
Yes.
Go for it.
Tell us who you are first.
No. Bill Bodinger.
Sure.
I know your name. I'm Eric Swanson. And you can probably figure out that I talk like my email.
But, if you can get that, and if you need some help from Mary, let me know.
I'll just send a neighbor net out. I think I have a spreadsheet, there's a spreadsheet on the website.
Yeah,
How many people
yeah, if you need anything,
are
just let us
registered to NeighborNet?
Over 325, not the whole town.
Okay, so we have maybe a third
It's
of the
maybe-
potential
maybe a third.
subscribers, so
What's
that's
that
one
other
of the
one?
problems, is we only have potentially a third of the subscribers.
Okay,
Or
I'll
actually
reach out
members
to
of
Mary to
NeighborNet.
see,
Okay,
Mary has a list.
yeah,
and she has an email list that you can get.
okay.
It's
Well,
not
I'm not
everybody
sure
though,
if
is
she
it?
can give it to you, but she can send it out. For
It's
you.
not everybody, is it?
Darn near, most everybody who has an email address, so,
Well, Mary was saying something we about doing something like that today anyway.
yeah, so, yeah, tell Mary and I'll tell her tomorrow.
Could she get me a set of addresses?
Maybe Mary
I
can,
think she keeps
Labels?
these,
you give her what to,
I'll speak to Mary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you have to provide her with the query, and she'll send it
How many
out
work?
and receive the information back.
but, I'd like to, for the next meeting, we'd like to do the second half of financials, the cost for the build out, is that?
I would love to, it depends on being able to get hold of MBI, which I will continue to work
And I'm gonna work on that too this week, I'm gonna do some follow-up. So, and in the interim, I'd like to thank everybody for coming, please come again, and we're gonna meet next Thursday at 4 o'clock. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second, third.
All in favor?
Aye.